Before he died, Adolf Hitler claimed his spirit would rise from the grave, and the world would realize he was right. Today, a quick scroll through social media shows thousands of users openly agreeing with him. The mainstream historical consensus rests on three heavy pillars. He orchestrated mass killings, he single-handedly started World War II, and he engineered anti-Semitism. This investigation explores whether the singular focus on one individual served as a systemic shield, allowing the world to ignore a much broader, global pattern of atrocity. To be clear, the crimes committed under his regime were horrific. Even his own surviving descendants chose to end their bloodline rather than carry his name forward. Yet by isolating one man as the ultimate villain, the winners of the 20th century may have performed a massive systemic cover-up. In China, Mao Zedong's Great Leap Forward forced farmers to surrender their land to the state. The resulting man-made famine starved 30 to 40 million people to death in just 3 years. In the Soviet Union, Joseph Stalin eliminated anyone who challenged his authority, sending millions to freeze in the Siberian labor camps of the Gulag. Stalin also engineered the Holodomor, stripping farmers of their harvests and leaving millions to die of starvation across Ukraine. Meanwhile, Imperial Japan operated Unit 731, a covert facility where military scientists subjected living human beings to plague bacteria and vivisection without anesthesia. This was part of a sweeping military campaign that killed up to 10 million civilians across Asia. Most of these dictators rebranded their mass deaths as cultural revolutions or industrial progress. In contrast, the German regime broadcast its crimes in its own speeches and documents. This transparency made the regime a useful focal point. By defining one nation as the absolute moral bottom, the Allied powers established a narrative that insulated their own strategic bombings and systemic famines from historical scrutiny. While textbooks often frame the rise of anti-Semitism as a localized German event of the 1930s, the geographic record of the last 2,000 years reveals a broader pattern of displacement. Jewish communities were systematically expelled from empires spanning Rome, England, France, and Spain, the result of centuries of recurring religious friction. Excluded from traditional social structures, these communities developed parallel survival networks, eventually concentrating their influence in banking, trade, and media. By the 1920s, this sentiment was a global mainstream force. In the United States, Henry Ford purchased a newspaper specifically to publish a massive anti-Jewish propaganda campaign that reached millions. The regime weaponized a sentiment that had been a pillar of European and Middle Eastern policy for over 2,000 years. The outbreak of World War II is blamed entirely on one man's aggression. But the match was struck years earlier with the Treaty of Versailles, an agreement designed to financially crush and humiliate a defeated Germany. As the regime rose from that economic ruin, global corporate giants saw an opportunity. Major companies from Ford to BMW actively supplied and profited from the growing war machine. IBM went a step further, engineering the specific punch card technology the regime required to systematically track and identify its victims. The political establishment was equally complicit. England's Neville Chamberlain signed the Munich Agreement, legally greenlighting Germany's early territorial expansion. The regime then crossed a fatal red line. They locked out international private bankers and created an entirely independent currency, the Mefo bill, dropping unemployment from 30% to 2% in 5 years. History shows a strict penalty for leaders who bypass the central banking system. Abraham Lincoln issued debt-free greenbacks to fund the Civil War. Muammar Gaddafi attempted to create an independent gold-backed currency for Africa. Both met violent ends. Many historians now point to this financial defiance as the hidden catalyst that escalated European tensions into a global conflict. World War II was the explosive reaction of a broken system, fueled by corporate greed, diplomatic appeasement, and financial power struggles. The ultimate villain was standing on a crowded stage, surrounded by complicit empires and profit-driven elites. By funneling the world's collective outrage onto a single target, the victorious nations successfully erased their own bloodstains from the historical record. The authors of history require a concentrated evil. It serves as a necessary distraction from their own shared hilt. If you want to understand how global power actually operates, you have to look past the convenient monsters they put on the front page and investigate the system that built them.